Hello, Scouts, or perhaps I should say good morning, Scouts, because we're out around the fire pit in the morning and we're going to make a Dutch oven breakfast classic. And I can't believe I'm 30 some odd videos in already on the Scouter Carl channel, and I've yet to make this breakfast staple of outdoor cooking. And whether you call it Hungry Man breakfast or Mountain Man breakfast, at the end of the day or at the end of the breakfast, you will have enjoyed a delicious breakfast that includes a lot of the things that we typically enjoy having in a breakfast without a lot of the fuss that typically goes into making a breakfast, especially with those challenges around a campfire. The breakfast starts off with some sausage that's browned up. We're going to add some frozen hash browns that have thawed, as well as the meat has thawed. We're going to add some eggs, like a scrambled egg mixture, and once it sets up and is getting close to being done, we're going to add some cheese to the top. To get us started today, I've added some heat underneath our 12-inch regular Dutch oven. I've got a campfire going here to supply me with some coals. It'll be important that I keep that fire stoked throughout the cooking process to make sure I have a ready supply of coals. So what I'll do is I'm going to get gloved up and take the lid off the Dutch oven and add a little bit of oil, and then we'll start browning up the sausage. So now I'm going to switch over and put on some of these food service gloves, because in a moment I'll be handling that raw sausage. To make sure my sausage doesn't burn and stick to the bottom of my Dutch oven, I'm going to add a couple tablespoons of vegetable oil. So we're going to be adding our sausage, and this is a pound of ground breakfast sausage. And what I like about these packages is they're sealed nice and tight on either end with that wire crimp. And unlike the meat, the ground meat that you would buy at the meat counter that tends to leak the juices of the meat out, you're pretty safe with these packets, especially when you're in your cooler with your other items and we're trying to be safe. So I'm going to use a paring knife. I'm going to come in and I'm going to cut the end off of this package here. And I'll add my meat. Having oil in the bottom of the Dutch oven is a great way to make sure you have it level. Now I'm going to take and break down this pork sausage and get it cooking. So as this cooks, we'll continue to break it down to make sure that it distributes itself evenly throughout our breakfast, but also to make sure that that sausage is fully cooked. We do not want to serve raw sausage because obviously you know that that could create some problems for us. So my ground sausage is browning up nicely, and what I'm going to do is, using a different knife, not the knife that I used with the raw sausage, I have a package here. Actually, it actually tears open, so I don't even have to worry about the knife. I have a package here of shredded potatoes, hash brown potatoes. Now this is just under 2 pounds of a packet. I'm going to add it and see what I need. You know, you can adjust this based upon the group that you have and how hungry they are. And I'm going to add it to this sausage right now, because what I want to do is I want to bring it up to temperature before I add our egg mixture. Now I'll incorporate it in. So that was about a pound of the hash brown potatoes that are in there. We're going to let them come up to temperature. They're incorporated with that breakfast sausage. And the great thing about the breakfast sausage is it is seasoned with those types of seasonings that are great for a breakfast sausage. If you were using just regular ground sausage, you'd want to go and research a little bit and add some of those flavors to be able to season it. But the great thing about that little packet is, like I said, it comes seasoned and it's one less thing to worry about. So as my hash brown potatoes are starting to come up to temperature along with that delicious sausage that's in there, every so often I'll reach over and I'll give it a little stir. The good thing is the bottom heat that I have on my Dutch oven is tapering down a little bit, so that's preventing this from getting burned, but also keeping my hash browns warm. So now what I'll do is I'm going to take and combine our eggs. I'm going to use a dozen eggs. Now all 12 eggs are in the pot. I'm going to remove these gloves. We'll get this mixed up and season it a little bit. So with our eggs in here and all the yolks are nicely there, I'm going to take my whisk and beat these together so that they incorporate well, because we're going to make like a scrambled egg mixture to go over the top. With our eggs whisked together, I'm going to add a little bit of milk. I added about a cup of milk. And now, because flavor is everything in this, we want to add a little bit of salt and pepper. Got my salt and pepper added. I'm just going to take and stir up my browning sausage and hash browns before we add our egg mixture. When everything's stirred together, we'll now add our egg mixture. I'm just going to combine it so that it's incorporated. Now we'll put our lid on and we'll add some coals to the top. Add a little heat to the bottom because I checked the temperature and I noticed that it was getting a little too low. I don't want it too hot, but I want it hot enough. That's a good temperature. It's important every 10 or 15 minutes to come in without lifting up your lid, keeping your lid pressed down. Give it about a third of a turn one direction. I always go clockwise and then a third of a turn of the pot in the opposite direction. And my habit is to go counterclockwise. And just drop it, and that helps ensure a nice even baking because the coal temperature is going to be uneven based upon where the hottest coals are. As you're baking, come in and check your temperature. Give it a comparison to what it was like when you first started baking, when you had that full temperature heat, a full complement of coals on the top, and just get a feel for how your top heat is and how your bottom heat. And I'm noticing that I'm losing some of that heat, so I'm going to add a little bit. I'm going to go light on the bottom because those coals are much closer to the bottom of the Dutch oven than on the top, where there's that airspace of about 2 inches between, 2.5 inches between the underneath of the lid and the top of the food. So let this keep baking, and in no time we'll be ready to put the cheese on the top. So the top of our Mountain Man breakfast egg casserole has set up nicely, and it's time to put cheese. I've got a mix here of cheddar jack, and you put on what kind of cheese you like, but the top is set up nicely, and let's sprinkle this cheese on top. There's an air pocket there that had made this gigantic blister, which was causing my cheese to slide to one side or the other. So we'll put our lid back on, and I'm rather confident that my bottom is done, and I want to make sure I don't burn it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it off of the heat from the bottom and leave the top heat on. That will take and melt up that shredded cheese and create that nice gooey top that we're looking for, meanwhile keeping our breakfast nice and warm. So Scouts, that cheese, that shredded cheese has been on top there, and I know it's melted, and I know it's going to look great. So let's take a little look here. Careful not to get ash in our food, and look at that. A delicious Mountain Man breakfast. We started off with a preheated Dutch oven with bottom heat only. We browned it up that pound of breakfast sausage that was pre-seasoned. We added some shredded breakfast potatoes on top, brought it up to temperature. While we brought it up to temperature, we mixed together a dozen eggs with about a cup of milk and some salt and pepper. Added that to the top, stirred it together. Once it's set up on the top, we added 8 ounces of shredded cheese, and we have a delicious Mountain Man breakfast, hungry breakfast. You call it what you want. I can assure you the one thing you will be calling it is delicious. Get out there with your patrol and your troop, have some fun cooking, expand your different cooking techniques, and look for different things to cook when you're out cooking around the campfire. But most of all, just get out there and have some fun in the great outdoors.